Okay, so now a 6 month old. Okay, you can read out the last line. Reading out the last line. What is the most likely cause of this patient's hypertension? Hypotension. Cool. Okay, awesome. Decrease effective intravascular volume, decreased myocardial contractility, decreased peripheral vascular resistance, left right shunting, and all and all and all. Okay, so first of all, we got a 6 month old infant, and he's brought to the emergency department due to sudden lethargy over the past few hours. His mother reports that he is usually very active, but today he seems pale and sweaty. He was born at full term without complications, and on exam, his temperature is normal. Blood pressure is 70 by 44, pulse is 24 per minute, and respiratory rate is 52 per minute. Are these all findings are good to go? No, they are not good to go. And it's just a very emergency condition of your patient. You have to diagnose it ASAP. The infant appears diaphoretic and pale, but has a brisk capillary refill. Lung examination are clear, no murmurs are appreciated. ECG reveals a narrow complex tachycardia at 240 beats per minute without identifiable P waves. What is actually happening in this patient? Okay, so what should be the answer here? First of all, let me tell you first something. So this infant has first of all supraventricular tachycardia. Okay, and that's characterized by narrow Q waves. Remember. I'll go into the detail of this shortly, but let me tell you first of all. I'll go into the detail of this. Trust me. But again, supraventricular tachycardia is characterized by narrow QRS complexes, no visible P wave, very high heart rate, and infants often, if this condition is presenting in infant, then they often appears as lethargy. It appears lethargy, pallor, sweating, hypertension. Because of course, infants can't tell you that oh my God, yeah, I am having palpitation. No, infants won't tell you. You have to examine clinically. Okay. Now, what actually happens that as I've told you that I'm talking about tachycardia, right? So yeah, that's the supraventricular tachycardia. Okay, now I'm going into the detail of another thing. I guess in the previous video I've told you about wide QRS complex tachycardia. Now let me tell you what these things are. Okay, so if your patient is having narrow QRS complex tachycardia, right? So that suggests a supraventricular tachycardia. Okay. Now we have different types of supraventricular tachycardia, and the most important here and the most important for us are AVNRT. Okay. The most important is AVNRT, atrioventricular nodal reentrant tachycardia. That atrioventricular nodal reentrant tachycardia, it means that the abnormal pathway, the abnormality is lying inside the AV node. Listen very carefully. I am dividing you the types of tachycardia into two broad categories. First of all, the category one is narrow QRS complex, which means you have to think about AVNRT, right? Atrioventricular nodal reentrant tachycardia. The second one is wide QRS complex. The wide QRS complex. In the wide QRS complex, we have AVRT, atrioventricular reentrant tachycardia. It means that pathology is not lying inside the AV node. We got some other external pathway like bundle of Kent, which classically happens in Wolff Parkinson White syndrome. That's cool. Okay. So, Wolff Parkinson White syndrome got other two types of tachycardia, orthodromic and antidromic. And as far as I remember, that white QRS complex tachycardia occurs in orthodromic. Anyways, now just a summary. Narrow QRS complex tachycardia, think about AVNRT. Wide QRS complex tachycardia, think about Wolff Parkinson White syndrome, which is an AVRT, right? We got only WPW in AVRT. But in the AVNRT, and we got, I guess, different types of types as well. I'm not going into the detail of that. I'm not going into the detail of that, but that's what you have to remember. It's not needed for this question, but you should know this for your clinical aspect. I'm sure that no one gonna test AVRT and AVNRT in your step one exam, but as a medical student and as a good doctor, you must know about these things. It's a huge ECD finding. And again, it's very important for your clinical aspects. Anyways, let's back to our discussion. Yeah. So what's the possible cause? You all know that whenever we are having tachycardia, we can we have why we have hypertension. Too simple. You are having tachycardia, your heart is contracting very rapidly, you're not giving your heart enough time to relax, you're not giving your heart enough blood to pump out, because if your heart won't relax, so it's not gonna collect much blood, and if it's not collecting much blood, it's not gonna eject out a significant fraction. So that's why you are that's why in the tachycardia the patient is having hypertension. So the answer for this is, of course, I've told you that the heart is not relaxing properly. That's why the answer is option E. Okay, that's it. Yeah, that's it about this. That's it about this question. Okay, so why option A is incorrect? Decrease effective intravascular volume. Okay, so this infant is well perfused, having brisk capillary refill, which means quick capillary refill. So and no sign of volume loss like vomiting and diarrhea. So again, the option is wrong, and the option is caused a hypovolemic shock, and the hypovolemic shock which doesn't match the patient presentation on ECG. Anyways, so it's totally different finding. Okay, why the option B? Why not the option B? Okay, decreased myocardial contractility. Man, the patient is having high tachycardia, so of course it's not the answer. Decreased peripheral resistance. Okay, so this would cause a distributive shock, like that happens in sepsis or anaphylaxis, but the baby is again afebrile, and no infection or allergic reaction signs are here. Okay, and plus hypotension in the distributive shock represent with warm extremities, no pallor and sweating. Okay, uh, yeah. Left to right intracardiac shunting that causes volume overload, not acute not acute hypotension or arrhythmias, and no you should hear a murmur if there is shunting, and it wouldn't cause sudden onset lethargy. Okay, so of course that's not the answer to. Perfect, awesome. Yeah, that would this is the white QRS complex tachycardia. I'm so sorry, I haven't showed you that while I was discussing about white QRS complex tachycardia. But this is the finding of this is the ECG of white QRS complex tachycardia. Okay, now the last question, but not least. Okay, so yeah, a 54-year-old man is brought with paroxysmal atrial fibrillation as is being started on dofilide. He has symptoms like palpitation, chest tightness, lightheadedness, and shortness of breath during episode. His past medical history include asthma, hypertension, and well-controlled diabetes. Prior workup shows normal ejection fraction, no valvular disease, no coronary artery blockage. Which adverse effect is most strongly associated with initiation of dofetilide in this patient? You know, in my medical school, in my step one days, I have always struggled while pronouncing this drug, dofetilide, and how I pronounce it, dofetilide. Anyways, it's just a bit funny. I can't pronounce it properly. Anyways, you see, flaw lies in everyone. Okay, so yeah. So the question is just asking about you which adverse effect is strongly related to the initiation of dofilodide. Bronchospasm, AV block, polymorphic ventricular tachycardia, PVT, thyroid dysfunction, venous thromboembolism, visual disturbances. What's the answer? Okay, so first of all, you should remember You should know that dofilitide is a class 1. No. Class 2. No. Class 4. Yes. No. Class 3. It's a class 3 antiarrhythmic. So dofilitide works by blocking potassium channels, and blocking potassium channels prolongs phase 3 repolarization. I was looking for if there is any picture showing the repolarization phase of heart, but there is no. Anyways, so you know that your heart got a different phases of repolarization: phase one, phase two, sorry, phase zero, phase one, phase two, and phase three. And phase three is markedly associated with the outflow of potassium ions. So this drug, dofilitide, blocks the potassium channels, which prolong the phase three of repolarization of the heart. And I've told you in the previous lectures that if anything is leading to prolonged repolarization of your heart, or if any drug is interfering, or if anything is interfering with the potassium outflow from the cardiac cells, then it leads to prolonged QT interval. And prolonged QT interval predisposes the patient to a very, very fatal, a very life threatening tachycardia, which is also known as Torsades pointis, and which is a polymorphic ventricular tachycardia. Okay, that's it about this question. Now, I want to explain few things here. First of all, what is TDP and why do we call it polymorphic ventricular tachycardia? I want to go into this detail. Okay. Now, first of all, my friends, polymorphic means that uh, different phases in the ECG of PVT of Torsades pointis. We have different phases, and we have different morphologies we have different morphology on the ECG, right? So that's why we call it as polymorphic, right? If you see the ECG of the Trossard's point is, you would see that it's a ribbon pattern. So that's why we say that okay, we have a different phases of ECG, not phases. I'm talking about phases. A good face, like I got a face, you got a face, I got a nice face, you got a good face, right? Just like that. Okay. Another thing, that why the heart is having polymorphic ventricular tachycardia, why it is having too many different phases, because there are too many foci here. If there are too many foci, electrical foci in the heart due to abnormal repolarization, then of course there will be too many phases of those pathologic repolarization on ECG, and that appear as polymorphic ventricular tachycardia. Okay, now first of all, I'm gonna tell you. I just want myself to come to get with this question, to get done with this question. So the correct answer is option C. The next option A is wrong. First of all, why it's wrong? Because beta bronchospasm is seen with beta blockers, and especially non-selective ones like propranolol. Dofetilide or dofetilide, whatever it is, it's not. It doesn't affect beta blockers, beta receptor. Sorry, and so that's not a case here. Okay. So complete AV block. Again, complete AV block is it's related to class 2 beta blockers, which are class 2 antiarrhythmics, right? So AV block is related to beta blockers, which are class 2 antiarrhythmics, and it is also related to calcium channel blockers, which are class 4 antiarrhythmics. So again, that's not the case here. We got dofetilide, which is a class 3 antiarrhythmic. Thyroid dysfunction, that's the function of amiodarone. Okay, that's a class 3 drug, but it contains iodine and it can cause hypothyroidism or hyperthyroidism, and that has a different presentation. Okay, and again, dofetilide does not affect thyroid gland, so it's safe in any patient with any thyroid abnormality. And again, it won't appear as this case scenario. So again, you are not using you are not using amiodarone, so you don't have to worry about the thyroid dysfunction here. Okay, the last thing about venous thromboembolism. Okay, that's a totally different thing. Venous thromboembolism, not the case here. Uh, the venous thromboembolism, if I explain you about the venous thromboembolism in this respect, so the risk of uh, venous thromboembolism is a risk venous thromboembolism develops from atrial fibrillation, but dofetilide does not lead to atrial fibrillation, so venous thromboembolism is not the answer here. Visual disturbances, that's a toxicity of digoxin and not a known effect of dofetilide till now, of course. So again, that's not the answer here. Okay, now I want to discuss few things with you, and I hope you will like it. I want to tell you about different forms of polymorphic ventricular tachycardia. First one is Tosardi's pointis. In Tosardi's pointis, there is QT in the QT interval is prolonged, and the mechanism is, I have told you many times, and I'm explaining you again, that there is prolonged repolarization. That's it. So the causes are dofetilide, sotalol, macrolides, fluoroquinolone as far as drugs are concerned, electrolyte imbalances like magnesium and potassium, decreased magnesium, decreased potassium, congenital long QT syndrome. So ECG shows twisting of QRS complexes like a ribbon, and yeah, that's it. Okay, the second one is polymorphic ventricular tachycardia with normal QT. Okay, so again, QT interval is prolonged, but that happens with ischemia, post ischemia, and it's a ischemia induced ventricular tachycardia. So, ischemia induced ventricular tachycardia is another type of polymorphic ventricular tachycardia. I have written this over here that in the ischemia induced PVT, the ECG, the QT interval is normal, but that follows after acute MI, or yeah, acute MI, most likely acute MI, or after or the reperfusion. Okay, that's it. Yeah. Anyways, so the last one is catecholaminergic polymorphic ventricular tachycardia, and that is seen in young patient with normal hearts and normal QT, right? And it is due to the mutation in the ryanodine receptor 2 gene, and that leads to abnormal calcium handling, and it present with syncope or sudden death, and treatment is beta blocker or ICD, is intracardiac defibrillator. Okay, so that's it. Explained you enough. I guess I think that you guys might appreciate our effort. So subscribe our channel, like this video, share this video with your friends, and that's a huge discussion of about cardiology section here. Thank you. I'm so sorry this video is too prolonged, but yeah, thank you.